9:09, welcome back, Big 550 KTRS. We will have up for you through our social networks here in a bit. The interview with Ellisville City Council, Matt Perillo, was here in studio earlier this morning. That after news that they impeached the mayor of Ellisville, Adam Paul, on a 5-1 vote. All of that will be up on Twitter at McGraw Millhaven, Facebook, as well as KTRS.com. Now, yesterday after the show, Frank, producer extraordinaire, came to me and said, give me your Social Security number. I was like, hey, wait a minute. What do you want my Social Security number for? He says, well, tomorrow we're going to have on this company called AAIM. They're a company that's been here in St. Louis for years, and what they do is they conduct background checks for employees. So Phil Brandt, AAIM Employers Association CEO. Phil, welcome to KTRS here in St. Louis.
Thank you. Good morning.
We were just talking off the air about what your company does, and if you can talk really close to that microphone, just move it wherever you want. There you go.
Awesome. Okay, good.
Good, yeah. Make sure you're comfortable. So we were talking off the air. Give us a sense. Your company is an association.
That's correct.
Tell us what it does.
Great. We're an employers association focused on helping employers. We're not-for-profit. Been in St. Louis for 115 years. And basically, we help employers with everything they have in their spectrum of employment, from hire to development to transition.
A lot of smaller companies use you because they don't necessarily have the resources that big companies have. So they use you. They join your association, and then they use your resources.
That's correct.
Yeah. Some of your resources include?
We have answer center line, so they can call and talk to HR experts and get their questions answered on the spot right then that day. Background check verifications. Recruiting, training. We'll do 500 training programs for employers throughout the community in Illinois, in Missouri. So,
but you're a national company.
We will serve employers nationally, but we're focused in Missouri and Illinois. Most of our employers who have companies outside of our community here, and then we will go and help them in those locations if they need that help.
And you have how many companies?
About 1,600 employers.
And you guys have been around for 115 years?
115 years,
Okay. Yeah. Now, the reason why you're here is how background checks.
Yes.
Are employers doing more or less of them?
More of them.
How come?
And more detailed checks as well.
I thought my resume was good enough. Why do they need to check my resume?
Well, they need to check your resume, as we learned from the CEO of Yahoo, who had his resume saying one thing and his credentials actually verified saying something different.
Right.
So that's exactly why.
Do we know how many people lie on a resume?
We've discovered, and there's several reports to this, that up to 40 to 50% of resumes are found to be inaccurate. I don't want to say lying, McGraw, but inaccurate.
Inaccurate. Do resumes really work?
They do. We know in communities like St. Louis and throughout Illinois, it's a lot of times who you know, and the value of networking is ever so important.
Right.
But resumes, everyone needs to have one. They do have to submit it. It sits in front of you when you do an interview, and people like to walk down the resume and say, well, why did you leave here, or what did you do at this particular place?
Right. Well, we'll get to the background checks here in a second. But since you sit in an interesting position talking to 1,600 different companies, what they're looking for, what they need, what do companies need in 2013?
Well, what they're looking for is skill sets. So let's just take the manufacturing segment for an example.
Right.
High school kids are not coming out of school in high school with 4 years of machine shop any longer or auto shop any longer. So having that mechanical aptitude for young people entering the workforce to offset some of the generation gap that's being created by baby boomers retiring is one huge gap and segment that employers are telling me about all the time.
So you're telling me that employers are begging for people who have a mechanical
aptitude.
That's
correct.
So hands-on, build things.
Hands-on, build things. I was talking with an employer just yesterday who is actually constructing a building in St. Charles County to train people, only to train people who he may or may not hire, to make sure that the people he does hire have an aptitude. And he's trying to get them from minimum wage level and capability to that $12 to $14 an hour capability and skill set. And that's a gap for manufacturers that's real and exists today.
So the schools are not producing the workers that the employers need.
In the case of manufacturing, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. What else are companies looking for?
Engineering, any of the science, math, and science technology fields are huge gaps in that space.
I've heard that they're going overseas.
They are going overseas, or they're coming from overseas to here, which is also creating another perceived problem that people will say, well, hey, how come all these people from a foreign country are finding jobs here, displacing American workers? And that's creating problems for politicians and our communities.
But the truth is, employers can't find qualified, quote unquote, Americans to do the jobs.
They are struggling. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So math, science, engineering, those are the jobs of the future. And while it's very important to have know what happened on December 7th, 1941, that doesn't mean that should exclude you from those other courses.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yesterday I gave you my Social Security number.
That indeed you did.
All right. What did you find out that is in my past?
Well, since we are live on the air, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will tell you.
You have my permission to bring up. I mean, don't give my Social Security number out over the air. But
I won't give that out.
But
your age. Your age.
I'm 40. Well, how old does it say I am?
46. That's how old it says you are.
Yeah. I'm 46.
But yeah, actually, the average person lives in 2.5 counties in their lifetime. Okay. So if I was looking at your background verification here, I have 4 pages of locations where you have lived. I mean, you're far beyond the average person there. So you're either running from someone's chasing you, but I mean Colorado, all the different places you've lived in Colorado and Phoenix and St. Louis here and so on. It's 4 different pages. It's quite extensive. But what it tells us is, first of all, no one else is using your Social Security number.
That's good.
You have a clean social trace, which is positive, right?
Sure.
So what we would do is we would take that information, we would match it with some county records. Okay. And your county and state records also came back clear. So you have a very clear background verification.
Which means I don't have any DUIs. I don't have any...
Exactly. No criminal record.
Late night drinking, fights or brawls or arrests or anything like that.
That's exactly what it means. Now, for contrast, let's look at mine just for a minute. In fairness, since we did yours, I brought mine.
Okay.
And when I started this job, of course, they did a background verification on me.
Okay.
With mine, it was a little bit more extensive than we did on yours, but we have found there were actually 3 people in my process using my Social Security number.
Wow.
Some guy named Jimmy. Okay, someplace, somewhere, Jimmy has been using my background or my social for about 10 years.
Really?
Yes. And another guy named Michael Scholl and another guy named Jimmy O. Douglas. So these are people who have, for some reason, used my background or my Social Security number to either seek employment. A lot of times you'll find that in migrant workers who are here illegally who have used your social. They use that on an application. Somehow they get that, they buy it, and then they use it. No harm done. They haven't used my credit history falsely, but it can cause you a lot of problems if they do.
What happens if Jimmy, now, when you know this information, do you put a stop on Jimmy using your Social Security number? Can you do that?
Yes, you can. There's organizations you can call, like Equifax as an example. You can report that, and basically what you'll have is a short and long-term option to put a stop on anyone using your social where they will call and verify that through you.
Gotcha.
So if Jimmy, which I've done, and if Jimmy surfaces again and tries to use it or anyone else, they call me first to say your social's being used. We want to verify. Gotcha.
Okay. Did they steal it from your garbage, or did Jimmy just sort of make up 10 numbers and it just happened to land on you?
That happens a lot of ways. I mean, there are some professional criminals out there who steal this type of information and they reproduce it and sell it in lots of different ways. So it can be it can happen lots of ways that way.
Right. Anything else a background check would tell you if you did a more extensive one?
It would tell you all about someone's criminal record. So if you did have someone who is a pedophile, you would want to know that, particularly for our employers who work with children or have, the St. Louis Zoo is a perfect example. They do a great job in their background verification.
Right.
They have a lot of children coming into the zoo. They want to make sure that the people they have there is not going to cause them any problems as employees. If you also take education and background and checking someone's education and verify they did graduate from school.
Right.
They didn't just attend the University of Phoenix. They graduated from the University of Phoenix, whatever that might be.
Right. So my background check says the only thing you checked was what? Did you? So you didn't give me a.
We checked your social. We checked your state status and your county statuses, and everything came back. No criminal records found.
So no one's looking for me. No
other than whoever's chasing you out of all these locations, right? We won't get into that.
A couple of landlords, maybe.
Right.
So no one's looking for me. I don't owe anybody. Nobody owes me. So
that's right.
If an employer would have come to you and said, do a background check on Millhaven,
right,
you would have come back and say, he's moved a lot.
He's moved a lot, and I would ask them to match that with your resume.
Gotcha.
Right, to make sure that your resume reflects those locations,
right,
and there's not a gap.
But like after I got out of college, I was sort of bounced around. I was in Colorado, moved to Omaha. But so I don't know if my job at the Dairy Queen would be on my resume when I was in Colorado.
And then that may not be relevant,
Yeah.
and that's completely acceptable.
Yeah.
But for others, that might be relevant, and that might be something they want to look into.
If an employer finds that you lied, you know what? Hold that. I have a question for you. I have a real-life situation for you that I bet you get all the time. Can you hold through the break?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, that is Phil Brandt. He is the CEO of AAIM. It's an employers association, and they do background checks on employees and their resumes. So stop lying on your resume. Go home and fix it. We'll come back more with him. 921 on KTRS.
Live and local. This is your official severe weather station.